Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Best Practices in Programmatic for B2B Brands. My name is Amanda Benavides, and I'm part of the marketing team here at StackAdapt. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to our presenters today to get us started.
Hi, I am Jordan Feidelberg, account executive here at StackAdapt. I've been here just over about a year and a half now, with about 7 years in advertising history, as well as my book here at StackAdapt is about more than 50% B2B brands. So I'm really excited to walk you guys through this today. And with that, I have my lovely co-host, Tessa Walsh.
Thank you, Jordan. Super excited to host this today with you, and thanks everyone for attending and joining us today. Here at StackAdapt, I am a senior account executive. I focus on both brand direct and B2B brands directly, as well as focusing on B2B brands through working with agency relationships. Honestly, companies of all sizes within that vertical, amongst other verticals. I've been at StackAdapt for almost 5 years now, and I've personally seen the evolution of our B2B space. It's been really exciting to see this vertical really take off, and with that, the solutions that we offer in-house.
Fantastic. So for those who aren't aware, and those who are, StackAdapt is a self-serve advertising platform. We do offer fully managed solutions as well as an in-between we call hybrid. We offer everything from planning, strategy, execution, reporting, in-house creative, market research, and much more. And with that, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the landscape of B2B. If you go over to our agenda today, we're going to open up with a very high-level view. Then we're going to sort of dive deeper into the different categories. So we're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about the multiple channels that you can use, the actual audiences we can apply, and then lastly, reporting and analytics. At the end, we're actually going to review those questions that you're going to submit somewhere around here during this presentation. For those of the questions that we don't get to, we will follow up, as Amanda mentioned earlier. We will follow up with you individually and make sure that you have all the answers you need. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Tessa. Tessa, what's going on in the world of B2B today?
Jordan, I'm glad you asked. A couple different things going on across this industry. I think key things that we really try to focus on when we begin conversations with B2B prospects, when they're evaluating working with us and vice versa, is really getting a good idea of their marketing strategy and how they're currently segmenting out their leads. So what they're classifying as automation qualified leads, marketing qualified leads, and then from there, having their sales team qualify those leads. So what we're typically looking to do is drive MQL as well as AQL initiatives and get those kind of key stakeholders involved in beginning to consider those companies as, potential clients of theirs. So in terms of the top 3 sort of concerns that B2B marketers are typically addressing most recently, I'd say the top 3 being improving the quality of the leads that they are driving. So are you driving automated qualified leads that are then resulting in marketing qualified leads, or is there more of a bounce rate, or what does that back out to once they become clients? Also looking at overall, of course, increasing sales revenue based on after improving the quality of those leads and maintaining that quality while increasing the number of leads. So these are each pretty important considerations while marketers are mapping out strategies. One thing that I think has been really interesting, trends that have resulted, I would say, not directly as a result of, but definitely influenced by the pandemic and more people working from home, spending more time at home. I would say that just looking at the amount of revenue that B2B ad spend has grown from 2020, looking ahead into forecasting to 2024, is pretty interesting. I think too, as there are more marketing opportunities to target B2B companies while they're at home or across different ad channels. Also just different digital marketing technologies gotten a bit more sophisticated. So yeah, this has been, I guess, definitely directly aligns with this vertical growing for StackAdapt at least as well. Out of the growing B2B ad spend, one of the biggest ad channels that I've certainly seen with the clients that I work with is really the growing emphasis on leveraging CTV as an ad channel within your B2B marketing strategy. I think in the past, this was maybe an ad channel that wasn't the first one for a B2B marketer to grab onto and put budget into. But at this point in the game, as attribution has really continued to become a bit more sophisticated and we're able to look at multi-touch attribution from where was someone initially served an upper funnel impression through CTV or even something like audio that in the past was really strictly an upper funnel awareness channel. We're now able to look at the revenue that running a CTV campaign in conjunction with, say, other retargeting ad channels like display is driving. So this is definitely an ad channel that I think B2B marketers can't really afford to not include in their plans going forward. And it's been certainly one that we've kind of started to map out different unique strategies around, such as including a QR code on your CTV ad campaigns. That way we have a bit more interactivity of someone going through to a landing page while being served that ad.
Awesome. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about building your strategy. So as it stands, what you'd like to do first, obviously, is define your audience. B2B is a whole different beast compared to other verticals, and it's very crucial to obviously reach the right individuals. So how to do that, really tapping into certain demographics in most cases, psychographics, as well as behaviors, buyer's journey, and just the firmographics, which you're going to find more often than not. So once you've actually identified the criteria of your audience, then we can move on to the next step, which is understanding the journey. Right? There's a purpose for every step of the funnel in B2B marketing, and it's even more crucial when you have long sales cycles. So for example, we have the awareness stage, letting people know about your product and that it exists. Then consideration, letting them know maybe what your products can really do, and now they're starting to think a little bit deeper. Then intent. So now at this stage, they're probably doing research into the different types of solutions, yours compared to others. And then lastly, that conversion, whether that be a demo, a sign up, or just simply buying your product, every step of this funnel matters, and we cannot just bypass one with ignoring the other. And now talking past the funnel and more about the actual user journey. So these individuals that we're talking about, now that we've defined them, in that actual user journey, there's a lot of things to consider. Now, every B2B solution and product is a little bit different. Obviously, there are even sub-verticals within them, but more often than not, what we see are these 5 pillars. So essentially, they identify a problem in their business and have some sort of a need, right? At that point, they start looking for a solution. So your solution. So now at this point in your messaging and marketing, you're either going to want to identify the pain point that they have and or the solution. There are many different areas of which that you could run with this particular messaging, but most important is identifying one of those two. From there, people like to learn a little bit more about your actual product. Therefore, they'd like to attend webinars or they need to do more research. And then from there, it's actually comparing and contrasting against different solutions. And then finally, committing either again to a demo, to a intro call, and essentially making that decision to either buy your product or not. So again, from a user level, it's a little bit more intricate than just an overall marketing approach. Tessa, now that we've talked about strategy, I'd love to hear all about the channels and the media mix.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess as we're kind of piecing this together, now that we've gone through kind of addressing the full marketing funnel, industry trends, and kind of piecing things together, from this step, what you want to look at is the different types of ad channels that you have really at your disposal. So StackAdapt is a fully omni-channel DSP, meaning we do provide clients with inventory, accessing ad channels such as CTV, video, native, display, in-game, as well as audio. Each of these ad channels you can really think of as being a workhorse to support various KPIs. So each one you can kind of deploy for hitting specific goals. So typically we'd look at, say, something like in-game audio or CTV that are ad channels that are a bit more passive in terms of how the user experiences them while they're using the internet. From there, what we could do is then retarget that audience that's exposed to these upper funnel ad channels through more of a mid-funnel tactic, like something like pre-roll video. From there, we could retarget audiences with display or native, depending on how engaged they are with the ad campaign overall. Something too that I really like to leverage is looking at using display or dynamic retargeting. Say if someone comes to your site, and they download a specific white paper, or you know that they've shown interest in a specific solution of yours, retargeting them with ad copy that lines up with that solution that they are considering. So in terms of the different types of ad channels, these are just really examples of what this could look like for a B2B campaign. I think running, say, like an audio campaign with audio assets as well as accompanying display banners can be really powerful. But I think this is just a good indicator of just various examples to help your team get a bit more creative with what bringing in each of these ad channels looks like. And here at StackAdapt, we are really always working as consultants with our clients and really recommending that we bring in testing new ad channels, testing new audiences to really get a good idea of what's working well for a campaign. So out of these ad channels, one of the largest growing ones that I mentioned earlier has been CTV. This is something that I think as the audience targeting has gotten more sophisticated as well as reporting, it's one that we're certainly pushing our clients to test out much more. It is such a large ad format by nature, and it's something that is a great one to leverage while someone is sort of in a more relaxed state. So perhaps they're more able to take in the content of that ad. And we do have an example here of a CTV ad kind of in the works. This is one that is StackAdapt's very own ad campaign so just to really give you an idea of what a CTV B2B ad could look like. They don't need to be dry, they can be really fun and creative. And this is something that, of course, we then recommend tying together with other types of ad channels and retargeting people to come to the site, or perhaps adding in a QR code, things like that.
Awesome. Thanks, Tessa. And with that, now we've discussed the different strategies, the different channels. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the actual audiences. So this is one of my favorite things to do and work with clients with. First and foremost, let's talk about first-party data. So your organizations or your clients, for example, they'll have either a list of current clients and or prospective, people who have signed up for newsletters, shown an intent of some sort, and we're able to actually leverage that. Most companies are able to leverage first-party data naturally, but doing so can either do one of two things. One, allow you to upsell and cross-sell if you know these people are already clients. Otherwise, you can actually leverage this data as exclusion to ensure incremental reach for you and your brands. And there are many partners in the space. Here at StackAdapt, we work very closely with LiveRamp. Now, this is not necessarily applicable for every single solution product, but when available, lookalike audiences from your CRM lists, people who have identified or are truly actual customers, leveraging lookalike audiences from them and modeling out and then excluding the original seed audience allows incremental reach of a different type. And this is something that, again, is case-by-case basis, depending on the actual person you're trying to reach, but something that we can certainly do internally. Now, for the more sort of lower-hanging fruit, we have access to third-party B2B targeting. In general, there are tons and tons of databases of third-party data as it relates to B2B marketing. A few of them obviously done in Bradstreet, Bombora, probably some of the larger, ZoomInfo as well as NetWise. And just to be clear, these are catalogs that you can access and pull off the shelf. And that is simply one way of leveraging targeting B2B audiences. But to take it a step further, here at StackAdapt, we actually have an in-house solution whereby we can customize exactly what you're looking for rather than just off the shelf. Not to say that it's particularly more up to date than what the third party would be providing, but again, it adds that level of customization whereby we can take things like job titles, seniority, specific industries, organization types, etc. And we're able to actually blend that in. Now, some of you may be familiar with, hopefully, the terminology of ABM, account-based marketing. This takes that customization to the next step. essentially you'd be providing a list of organizations of which you'd like to target decision makers and people with specific titles. This is also a capability of StackAdapt, but just to be clear, this is a little bit more in depth because you are fine-tuning exactly the individuals you want to reach at particular organizations. And then afterwards, for example, you could layer on things like the actual title, the job functionality, and even in some cases, the amount of money a particular person or salary that they have. Now, going back one step, just so I don't miss this particular mention, is within this, we can also apply size of organization as well as the revenue of said organization. Something that's really interesting to, I know, a lot of B2B folks who hyper-focus on essentially the revenue of the organizations that they're trying to target. And then lastly is location. Obviously, as B2B marketers, we have lots of conferences that we are now going back to. And we are able to actually pinpoint those locations with both day parting and hour parting to ensure that we are only targeting and acquiring these individuals into a retargeting pool that then you can serve your ads to. So for example, CES in Vegas, if there are very particular exhibits or showrooms, obviously being able to pinpoint that and also have particular day parting to allow, and hourly parting to allow for very particular targeting. Additionally, for those of you who aren't familiar with ISP targeting, that essentially is the internet service provider. So again, a list of organizations, and then we can target their ISP. So again, it is somewhat location-based, but it would actually be devices that are attached to that ISP of particular organizations provided by our clients. And again, this is something that is more generalized, but again, very, very impactful. Lastly, this is actually a solution here at StackAdapt that's very proprietary. However, in general, contextual targeting is on the rise as a market, as an industry in B2B. At StackAdapt, we have our own solution called Page Context AI, which essentially, again, is cookieless. It does not target individuals, rather the actual content itself. So what we're able to do is take keywords and phrases and actually target in real time while a user is ingesting this particular article, blog post, any sort of content, and essentially serving the ad in real time. And that applies to display, native, and online video. And this is super impactful because typically B2B marketers, when they're ingesting or learning about a new product, having your ads in real time right there, along with the contextual element, is incredibly impactful. Tessa, now that we've gone over audiences, let's talk about reporting and analytics.
Let's do it. Thank you. So moving into reporting and analytics, I think a key thing to note here is as this industry has continually grown, different solutions have grown, and kind of the complexities that we're able to report back on has increased pretty significantly. So depending on the provider that we are leveraging for audience targeting here, helps us then determine what we can report back to you on your campaign. Something that I really frequently do is when I am kind of being consulted on which audiences to leverage for a B2B campaign, I'll then discuss it with our data solutions team to then look at which providers we could use for a campaign. So something that's been interesting to leverage has been looking at custom audiences through Bombora. They are able to report back on like various prepackaged audience solutions, ABM reporting, as well as they have a unique solution called Company Surge that we can also report back through. Looking at ABM measurement as well, if we are leveraging StackAdapt's in-house B2B audience targeting, this is something that gives us a bit more control and flexibility in terms of how granular we can get at looking at backing out on the ROI of a campaign. So looking at the sort of size of the clients that we are driving to your site through that ad campaign, the quality of those leads. Are they kind of a lifelong customer? Are they, directly going into being a marketing qualified lead, or are they a smaller account? So this is something that we can always prioritize accounts based on the brand objectives or based on whether we're driving site visits or a sign up. We can also heavily pixel our page to look at, or the landing page here to look at which areas of the site someone's going to and retargeting them to sign up and get involved with, say, doing a demo or downloading a white paper and so forth. So when we are working with Dun & Bradstreet for leveraging their audience targeting, we can look at reporting back on some pretty specific attributes, such as job seniority, job function, other custom parameters as well, the company's city, state, company name. I think it's definitely worth reaching out to your StackAdapt account executive or reps to essentially ask on how granular we can get. I'll have a lot of clients reach out with really specific parameters that I can then go to our data solutions team with to then build a use case for us to either build out that solution if it's not off the shelf available. But quite frequently it is, and I'm excited to see within this vertical where this continues to go with the level of sophistication we can pass back through reporting and analytics and so forth as this continues to evolve.
Today, we've talked about, obviously, the landscape as it is. We've discussed strategy. We've talked about the different channel mixes that we recommend and see in the space as today is growing. Then we're going to talk about, we spoke about audience targeting as a whole. And then lastly, reporting and analytics. Awesome. And with that, we're going to kick it back over to Amanda to sort of wrap everything up and go through some of the questions that we see here submitted.
Thank you, Tessa and Jordan, for your presentation. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please place them in the questions box of the GoToWebinar panel. So it looks like we do have some questions coming in here through now. So we'll just tackle some of these that are appearing here from you. First question, how can we use ABM targeting within StackAdapt? Is it self-serve?
Tessa, do you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, for sure. So right now we can absolutely do ABM targeting within StackAdapt. It's not currently built out to be self-serve. This is something that we'd prefer our team to be a bit more involved with in terms of working with our data solutions team to build it out for you. I think down the line, this will be offered as being a bit more self-serve, but for the time being, it's something that we're happy to work with your team in building out each of these custom ABM solutions in-house.
Perfect. Next question. Does StackAdapt have any benchmark data that shows the lift on campaign performance when new channels are applied? So i.e. native, audio, video?
Yeah, this is something that I would say is pretty case-by-case basis. So of course, we don't want to provide benchmark data that doesn't necessarily align with what your campaign objectives look like. So that is pretty ad hoc, but it is definitely data that we do have access to. I think it'd just be something that you'd want your StackAdapt rep to go ahead and curate for you and provide a bit more context on where those benchmarks have been pulled from. Something that I frequently do with my clients is we go ahead and use our analytics team to go in and pull an ad effectiveness report. Now, what that does is it's able to show back to us what the effectiveness was of using, say, CTV within the overall ad campaign versus without. So that's something really interesting to see where if we're able to determine that someone is 1.2 more likely to convert and purchase on your site after being exposed to a CTV ad or an audio ad, that's the kind of report that I really like showing to clients to really show where the diversification of bringing in other ad channels pays off.
Perfect. Okay, next question. Using CTV ads looks interesting. How do we go about creating those assets? Anything StackAdapt can do for us?
I can tackle this one. Essentially, clients, if you do have videos that you leverage for YouTube or online video, those can obviously be converted to be leveraged for CTV. As well as we do have an in-house solution whereby we can actually help procure those videos with particular budgets. We can actually shoot and edit those videos for you. So one of the two options, and also just converting things you already have if it was raw footage, for example.
Great. Okay, another CTV question here. Can you provide a couple of examples of where CTV ads would run? So i.e. the TV channels, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tessa, that one.
Sure. Yeah, so for different types of, essentially CTV is just any TV that is connected to the internet. So this could be if someone's watching TV on, say, like a Roku device, or even if someone was watching a CTV app or channel through like a gaming console, we could look at running on those as well. An example of this could be someone who is on Hulu or Disney Plus, also someone who is maybe watching on ESPN, the US Open, and we want to serve ads during those live sports programming. We can also look at doing CTV campaigns with that sort of content as well.
Great. Okay, another question. For CRM data, does the platform support MD5 hash encrypted emails for matching?
Encrypted emails for hashing. I can speak for StackAdapt's particular import and upload, but essentially if you had those emails, we would be able to leverage like a CSV upload into our platform, and it would be able to be matched through our partner, direct partner with LiveRamp in real time, 30 minutes or less. I hope that answers the question.
I think I can also provide a bit more insight here too. So we aren't actually able to, if you're ingesting hash data into the platform, essentially like unhash that and then rehash it to target those individuals. But what we can definitely look at doing is, I would assume if you've already have that data hashed, is that that's being ingested through like LiveRamp. So what we could look at doing is then just directly importing that data in through your LiveRamp account into StackAdapt to then use for targeting.
Perfect. All right, another question. How can I access LiveRamp data? Do I need an account?
Here at StackAdapt, you do not need your own account. As Tessa sort of just mentioned, if you already have an account with LiveRamp, you can actually push your data directly to our platform, which is a really simple and even faster way of doing it than a manual upload. However, you do not need an account with LiveRamp to take advantage of our CRM targeting tool.
Great. How well does StackAdapt integrate with platforms like Shopify from an analytics standpoint?
That's a great question. I assume your particular product is obviously, or your site is actually leveraging Shopify, for example, but we actually do have an API and a way to connect with that and get revenue in real time into the platform. So you can see that instant return on ad spend.
Perfect. Okay, how specific does the geo-targeting get? Can we target a building and layer on devices on top of that?
Or Tessa, I'll let you tackle that one.
Yeah, so for the targeting, we can use latitude, longitude coordinates or a building's address. We can usually get up to like 10 by 10 meters, I've heard, in terms of the accuracy. And in terms of layering on devices, it's definitely something we can do. However, it's something that I would be a bit more hesitant or would take in the consideration of that, how that would impact the scale of a campaign. So also just considering what the budget is or how, just kind of like riding the line of not making it too restrictive.
Fantastic. I think I'll ask one final question here and then we'll wrap up for today. But again, if we didn't get to your question today, not to worry, we'll follow up directly with you after the webinar is complete. All right, so some of our B2B clients work within niche industries. Are there any custom targeting options for that, and does it have reach?
Tessa, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure, yeah, we have tons of different custom targeting audiences available, or targeting audience solutions available. It's something that, again, I've mentioned them throughout the call. They really are the rock stars of this vertical, but our data solutions team are really a group of people that I lean on very heavily for coming to them with different requests from our clients in various niche verticals. From there, they are able to recommend back to us either which in-house solutions we could look at leveraging, also whether we should look at doing Bombora, Dun & Bradstreet, or a combination of all three, depending on where which countries we're looking to target here for this strategy. So if it is containing, say, North America, as well as like Europe, leveraging different data partners here to build out custom solutions. But yeah, this vertical is really interesting because it is so ad hoc in terms of each solution, and it's really hands-on for building out these niche solutions, but it's certainly something we pride ourselves on doing very well.
Fantastic. All right, thank you so much once again, Tessa and Jordan. So that concludes today's webinar. Thank you all for attending today. We hope you found it both informative and insightful. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with the recording to all registrants. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any other questions you might have. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.